Hello, everybody. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about Farnham Maltings. We're a creative organisation based in the southeast of England, and we do lots of different things. One of the things we do is to support the independent theatre sector, and particularly around working internationally. And we have run Caravan now for 12 years, Hannah will probably correct me. And the purpose of Caravan is to support artists making work in England to think and work internationally. Alongside that, we produce a series of companies. We make our own work largely for rural touring. We run a venue. We do a whole series of community engagement work. We run a big programme supporting local craft makers, and we also coordinate and deliver house and network of venues across the southeast.
So I'm just going to give a brief overview of the Caravan Assembly. We started in 2012 and it runs biennially. You may recognise it as the Caravan Showcase, but we have renamed it for 2022. As Fiona said, the focus is on developing new relationships internationally for England-based companies. Rather than selling a show, it's more of a opportunity to network and to create relationships rather than an opportunity to just export. It takes place over 3 days in May within the Brighton Festival. The programme contains performances, pictures of new work and networking opportunities. In the past, we've received about 200 applications per showcase, and the final selection of work is put together by the curatorial group, which is a mixture of people from the Brighton Festival, Farnham Maltings, the British Council, and also guest producers from the UK and internationally based. The final programme is usually around 20 artists and 60 international festival and venue programmers and producers. In 2020, we did a fully digital version, and 2022 will be a hybrid version. And then the programme is also supported year-round by a programme of training and development opportunities. Just a few fun stats for you. Since 2012, we have presented the work of around 91 England-based performance artists and companies, hosted 228 international programmers, resulting in around 103 international presentations and generating around £323,000 worth of income for England-based companies, of which we are very proud.
So for Caravan 2022, we have decided to make it a little bit different and give it a specific focus this time. And I'm sure you'll have all seen that the focus is socially engaged practice. What we mean by that is work artists who actively involve people and communities in the way they make and present work. We deliberately, consciously haven't been any more specific than that. In part, it's for those of you applying to define how you meet that. It doesn't mean that the work needs to have communities participating in it. And I think if you feel you match that theme, you'll be able to articulate why really clearly. As Hannah said, the format this time is going to be a hybrid, so it will be a live event over 3 days in Brighton, 22nd to the 24th of May, but there will also be a digital programme that runs alongside and is likely to be open slightly longer for engagement in the lead up and then post the live event. We imagine that we will have, well, we know we will have international delegates attending in person and digitally as well. The festival, as we've said, takes place during the Brighton Festival in Brighton, obviously. Just one point worth clarifying is if you're part of Caravan, it doesn't automatically mean you're also part of Brighton Festival. That really depends on the nature of your involvement in Caravan, the nature of your work, logistics and that sort of thing. Over the 3 days, there will be a series of networking opportunities. Lots of these revolve around food and drink. but we'll also be having a series of digital opportunities to network as well, both on a kind of one-to-one basis and potentially some group opportunities as well. We also imagine this time round there'll be some discussion opportunities, panel sessions, particularly because we have quite a focused theme. As Hannah mentioned, alongside and in the lead up to the assembly, we run a training programme, and we've developed that a bit for 2022. So there will be mentoring available for all the participating artists, as well as a series of group training sessions. If you are selected to be part of the assembly, it is our expectation that you involve yourself in as much of it as possible and take full advantage of all the training and networking, as well as presenting your show, idea, company in whatever form it takes in the assembly.
So we just talk a little bit more about the process of applying for the Caravan Assembly. The call out's open and the deadline is the 5th of August at 10 AM. We accept proposals via our online portal in the form of a proposal, either written or in as a video application in either English or BSL. You can apply for any kind of presentation or proposal. We're really open to the best way for you to share your work with an international network. So, for example, in the past, that has been live performances in traditional, non-traditional spaces. This year, we're also opening that out to digital presentations, pitches of new work and ideas, or pitches of existing work that it's better to be shared in that form. We have a pitch mentor who would work with you to create that pitch. This year, as Fee mentioned, we're also opening things out to Q&As, panel discussions, presentations. We're really open. I said that before, but we're really open to the proposals, and the assembly will be curated around the proposals that we receive. We don't have a specific structure or format that we have in mind already. It will be curated based on the applications that we receive. One key question that we're always asked is about international experience, and you don't need to have any international experience to apply for the showcase, but you do need to have the capacity to take on international working.
So the selection process is done in two parts. Initially, all the applications are longlisted by Farnham Woodlands and Brighton Festival, and then the process goes to a curatorial group, as Hannah said, made up of Brighton Festival, Farnham Woodlands, and also international and national guest producers and programmers. The curatorial group are listed on our website, but I can go through that if anybody is interested. The selection criteria is made according to a number of things, including the quality of the theatrical experience, the clarity of ambition of the work and the artist, relationship to the theme in this instance, suitability for international working, and as Hannah raised, their capacity for international working, availability of venues, so like some real logistics that we're actually able to present your idea work in whatever way you would like, diversity of audience and scale as well. As we've said before, we do have FAQs listed on our website, so do check those out. And I think we're now opening for questions. Oh no, sorry, Hannah, I missed your.
Oh, I just thought it would be helpful to put up the timeline here, which we just discussed. So the applications are open. Deadline is the 5th of August. Selection takes place in September, and we aim to notify all artists by early October 2021. The final programme is announced in January, and then Caravan takes place between the 22nd and the 24th of May 2022.
Amazing, thank you both. We've started getting some questions in, so please pop any questions that you have in the Q&A function or in the chat and we'll read them out. I've had one in asking, how many projects do we usually support overall?
So we usually present between 15 and 20 artist companies, but this time it's a bit hard to say because it is so dependent on the applications we get in and the shape of them and what makes sense in the programme, because we, as Hannah said, we're going into the process with quite an open view of the format of those 3 days and what the content will be. So 15 to 20 is a good guide, but I'm deliberately being vague because who knows, we'll probably break our own rules.
To jump off that a little bit, Fiona, so you say, we're saying we're very open to artists presenting their work or their practice in different ways for this assembly in particular. If an artist had a very specific specialism or thing that they did, and they felt that the best way to share that with an international delegates was to essentially like make a speech and to do a presentation about themselves and their work, would that be something we'd want to have?
I think we definitely would consider that, yes. I think the thing we definitely want to have some full live performances. We definitely will have a series of pitches. The pitches we usually present about 6 artists, and they have 15-minute slots, 8 minutes of pitching, 4 minutes of questions, turnover time. It sounds very specific, but we've done it for a number of years and they're really successful. So I think if somebody came and said, we would love to do a kind of big presentation of who we are and our process and our kind of ethos, I think we would absolutely need to know how that was different from a pitch. There might well be a really valid reason that there is, but we would need to have kind of some real sense of how they all sits alongside each other over the programme. But absolutely, we're open to all of those suggestions.
That's great. I've had a question asking, are you able to apply with 2 different ideas? And if so, would we do 2 different applications or 1 and try and explain both?
Hannah, do you want to answer that? Because we were talking about that only yesterday.
Absolutely. So yes, we are open to more than 1 idea. They would need to be significantly different in form, either different shows, I think would be that we would be open to. We would prefer the applications to be separate as well. It just makes it easier for us.
And I would add to that that I think if you've got more than 1 idea that you think would work, brilliant, but really make sure you think they are both your best ideas. If you think this one is perfect and this one we're just hedging our bets, we want to put in more than 1, I'd sort of be inclined to make you really think about which idea you think is the best one. If they're equally good, by all means, put more than 1 in, but just have that chat with yourself.
Amazing. I've had a question about capacity to tour internationally. Could we expand a little bit about what we mean by that?
Yes, absolutely. This is something that I bang on about all the time. And we've got quite a lot of international resources about capacity on our website as well. Ultimately, what we mean is that you have the producing and administrative support in place to be able to take up those opportunities. What we found in the past is that through Caravan, but also through other programs that we do internationally, is that people have a lot of ambition, which is fantastic. But then when the opportunities come in, they're not able to take them on, or they become overstretched doing so because they don't have the producing and administrative support in place to do that. So that's really what we mean. But I can explain more if you have an idea. If you want more info.
Quite often it's a time scale thing as well, isn't it? International work takes a long run up.
Absolutely, and that it needs to be. It is often on top of whatever you're doing in the UK as well. So it is easy to become overstretched when you take on international working. So we just mean that you're able to kind of take up those opportunities and it's not wasted time for you.
Absolutely. Can we expand on which costs are covered for the showcase and expenses?
Yes, I'm happy to answer that. So we basically mean the costs incurred directly by your participation in the event. So if you were putting on a show, for example, we mean your time to do that during the 3 days, your travel to get there, your accommodation if needed, per diems, that kind of thing. What we don't tend to cover is the kind of remount costs if necessary. However, she says that and then she qualifies herself. It particularly is like we've had some incidents where we've had an artist that's making a participative work that can only be presented because they're working with a particular set of communities that has to be in Brighton. So they have to be on the ground generating some new content in whatever form. And in those instances, sometimes we've covered elements of that.
That's interesting that you mention the participative work fee. I've just had a question in about socially engaged performance that takes place with the community. And they want to know if it has to take place over 6 weeks with community online or in person. Can we program that, or does it need to fit into the 3 days of the assembly?
If it's a piece of work that by its nature is a kind of long form piece that requires 6 weeks of work, then there's no way we would say you have to do a version of that in 3 days if that didn't represent the work that you made. I think that might come down to some of the criteria around kind of scalability and ways of presenting. Maybe if it's a piece that requires 6 weeks on the ground participation, we might not be able to present it in its actual form, if you know what I mean. But maybe that would be really good for a pitch. Maybe that would be something that might be a presentation that we haven't thought of what the format is, but you might go, actually, I know that this is what is required of this piece of work, and it would be best presented in this way. I hope that answers that question.
I think so. I've also had a question about, I've got a few questions about scale actually. So someone's asked, if we are proposing a piece with different elements, like there's a live version, a live stream version and a workshop, and we want to do all of it, want to propose it as one big piece, is there space for including all of it in the programme, or would we just consider an aspect of it? And how can we make it clear in the proposal that we can show / tour as a whole with all of the elements, or just as parts?
It's really difficult to answer the question of what we can and we can't do. What I would say is within our curation process is quite organic, in the sense of, if somebody pitches project A that has 3 different elements, the curatorial group might say, we love that idea, we love that artist, we really want to present. We're not sure we can actually present it in the way they've pitched and do it justice. So let's have a conversation with that artist about another way of doing it, or presenting particular elements of it. And then it becomes a kind of conversation between us and the artist about what works best for that project in the context of Caravan, and how we can find the best way of presenting their ideas and their work. So if this project has 4 different elements that are massive and mega and integral, put that application in, just know that we might come back and say, this is amazing, can we just have a conversation about the reality of doing it in the context of Caravan, and be prepared and open for that, I suppose. I think in some ways it mirrors what might happen in reality in an international relationship. You know, you might pitch an idea and the venue might not, or festival might not always be able to meet all of your needs, but there might be evolution of it that's really exciting that comes out through conversations.
That's very, very true what you say about it being organic. It's definitely not a plug and play showcase. Sorry,
That's
Hannah.
what I was just going to say. I think that's a really important point, that it's often a conversation between the curatorial group and the artists who apply. So, don't feel like if you don't apply with the exact right format that you won't get through. It's really about the work more than anything.
Absolutely. I've had a question asking, we have a trilogy of work that's created as a coherent whole. I'm assuming that's 3 live performances. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Can we apply with the entire trilogy and on the same application?
Yes. Short answer. If they're 3, I think the response about separate applications is if they're different ideas. If they're fundamentally different pieces of work, then it's easier. It's an entire administrative situation. That is, it's easier for us administratively to have them as separate. If it's the whole piece is 3 pieces within one, then apply for one application. I would encourage you, unless you feel really strongly that you would only present it as 3 pieces altogether. If you're open to that conversation, just make it clear within your application that you're open for a conversation about the best way to present the whole work. Because logistically, we might not be able to present all 3 pieces just from a time perspective, but there might be other ways of doing it.
Got a question. These are a couple of quick fire questions for you. Can we apply for work that is already happening or being made, or is already finished, or does it need to be a completely new idea?
So we've always said historically that the work has to be tour ready. If we're presenting the work live. That's it's a weird thing to say now in these times, but like if we're presenting an actual show where we're all present, then we would expect it to be tour ready. Obviously, if you're looking at pitches or other forms, then sometimes the work is more in development. Often people who apply for pitches are looking for commissioning partners or development partners in some way. I think there's sometimes a challenge with work that hasn't been developed at all. It's difficult for the curatorial group sometimes to know that will be ready by May if it's being presented live, and B, how we are confident of the quality or the suitability for international working. So if you feel you can demonstrate that through your application, then great, but just those are the kind of questions that we would be talking about in relation to the curation process.
And another quick fire one. In terms of scale, are we open to small scale that engages a very small group in an intimate way?
100% yes.
That was easy. Cool. So we've whipped through the questions in the Q&A box. So please, if anyone attending has some more that they want to get in there, I've got a couple myself though. So we're doing a hybrid model this year. If I was an artist taking part with a digital work, would I be able to participate in the showcase entirely digitally?
Shall I take that one, Fee?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that we would consider it if there was a very strong reason why that you wanted to participate solely in that way. But our ideal would be for people to be there in person, to really benefit from the in-person networking events as possible. But it is something that we would consider, for example, if you were currently abroad.
So in the same vein, if I have a digital work but I wanted to come to the showcase in Brighton, I could do that.
Yes, absolutely.
Brilliant. And so am I right in thinking, Hannah, that there will be delegates attending virtually and they will sort of be available to the in-person attendees as well?
Absolutely, yeah. So we're still putting together the hybrid model, and it will really be created around the work to make sure that we can get a good and proper interaction between the virtual attendees and the work and the artists who are attending. But yes, we would. Attendance at the showcase, being a showcase artist, would mean interacting probably with virtual and live IRL delegates in Brighton.
And the virtual interactions would be things like one-on-one video calls and such like.
Yeah, so when we did the 2020 showcase, that worked really well. And we understand that people feel comfortable networking in different ways. You know, not everybody feels comfortable walking into a room full of delegates and working the room. I know I don't. So having a variety of different ways that people can interact with the delegates, including one-to-one virtual meetings, we feel that that's really important to give everybody the opportunity to make the most connections they can.
Amazing. I've had a question about what we were saying about being tour ready. They've asked, if we have 30 minutes of a show that has been scratched previously, can we show a work in progress like this? Or are programs looking for something they can tour immediately after May?
Historically, very early on in the caravan, we did show some works in progress, and our experience was that actually wasn't great for the artists. It's a very different thing sharing work with international delegates to national delegates. They come in with a different set of contexts, a different set of criteria, and they can be quite ruthless. And I think sometimes you have to be careful about overexposing yourself and an idea when it might be quite early on in its stage, and how you share that is really key. So my instinct is we wouldn't show works in progress, but we do present artists through our pitches that might be at a stage of work in progress, but they're talking about it and articulating it and sharing images of it, which is different to actually kind of performing live in front of international delegates. The other thing we have done, we tried the first year we ran Caravan was excerpts of pieces which really didn't work. So we wouldn't, unless there was a really, really, really strong argument, we would be unlikely to do that.
If I can offer, like, I suppose, a note on pitches, just from my experience last year, they are a really almost invaluable opportunity for the artists who get to do them, because you get the opportunity to really talk to somebody about your work and make them understand it in a really clear way, in the way that you want them to. And you can incorporate a lot of different things about the piece that you're making and what you're looking for in a way that's very direct and can be really, really creative as well. And I really enjoyed watching the pitches at Caravan last year.
I think for some international delegates as well, they're really keen. Yes, they might be interested in a specific show, but they're also really interested in getting to know you as artists. And that pitching, you're pitching yourself, really. You might be pitching an idea, but really you're pitching yourself and your ethos and why you do what you do. And if you get them in on that journey from the beginning, then it leads to some really exciting collaboration.
Is it maybe also worth saying that they are, we call it pitch curator, but they're kind of a pitch mentor who helps the pitching artist put together their pitch, and that person is a really experienced international programmer who can offer a sense of what it is programmers really want to know about. So that's a really useful insight, and she's really excellent at helping you put together your pitch as well.
Everybody will be applying for pitches now. You sold it well.
I had a question about advice and support for international touring. If we are tour ready and we feel that we have capacity do you offer advice and support? And I think this potentially has two answers, both during application or for the Caravan Assembly and the Caravan programme in general, because we do offer general advice to artists as well.
Shall I to Arte?
Yeah, you go.
Yeah. So yes, absolutely. We offer year-round support for artists who are interested in working internationally. On our website, we have a range of different resources all around international working, how to determine if you're ready, how to put together your international strategy, networking. We've also done a business planning course that we're just in the middle of turning into an e-course, which is around kind of growing your capacity to take on international working. As part of the programme for Caravan, absolutely. So there'll be a training programme that we will create based on the needs of the participating artists. And there'll also be one-to-one bespoke mentoring available. So there's 2 to 3 sessions for each participating company with an experienced international producer to answer any of your questions around anything to do with working internationally. So, you know, we really try to offer as much support as we can around this alongside the networking opportunities.
We also recognise that international working, well, actually nowadays it can be super quick, but often it takes a long time. And we've had artists who've been sort of in caravans sort of 4, 5, 6 years ago, and they might get in touch suddenly because a relationship that they built then is suddenly coming to fruition, and they want to ask us advice or see if we can help financially or any of those things. So the door is always open for those conversations. We feel very strongly that, you know, it's important to support each other as much as we can, regardless of time frames. So.
I'm going to link to the professional development part of our website.
I was going to use this as an opportunity to plug my programme of professional development, international professional development, which includes some producing surgeries around different aspects of work as well, so where you can come with a real challenge and work on it with a group of like-minded producers and a guest expert. So we'll be launching those in a couple of weeks as well.
Amazing. I'm going to ask a few questions just about the professional development element of the Caravan Assembly, and also put out a last call for any questions in the Q&A box. So will the programme be taking place over the months before the assembly itself, and will I be able to participate remotely?
We plan, or Hannah, we were going to say the same thing. It will start from January and run until, well, actually we usually run it beyond May a little bit, so that people can, if stuff comes out of the assembly, then there's the opportunity to have conversations about specific things. And we anticipate that all of it will be online and digital. We always leave ourselves windows to change our minds, but at the moment that's the plan.
Brilliant. And if an artist was taking part who had something specific that they wanted to cover or talk about within the professional development programme, would they be able to make a request?
Yes, so our plan is to survey all of the participating artists in advance. So there would be an opportunity in there to request a specific type of training. Ultimately, we will need to go with what suits the group as a whole for the group elements of the training, but then you would have the one-to-one mentoring sessions in which to discuss specific aspects to you and your practice.
Thank you, Hannah. I think we're going to wrap up there. I think we've reached the end of the questions. But before we sign off with just reminders of dates and timelines, is there anything that either of you wanted to say to sign off? Just
leave yourself a little bit of time to make the application. I know that I always leave it to the last minute and then something goes wrong with the form. I'm preaching to the choir, I'm sure, but we're using an online portal and there's often technical issues.
And the only thing I say is that even though we've run the event for lots of years, this is the first time we'll be running it in a hybrid I hesitate to say post-COVID, COVID probably context, we'll be living with it. So we're so open to ideas and thoughts, and I just want to encourage you to be honest about how you think that you can best present and share your work and your practice, and we will absolutely listen to that within those applications. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. We're going to put this webinar as a recording, as a resource on the website alongside, so you can refer back to it if you wanted to, or share it with somebody who couldn't make it today. And applications are all due by 10 a.m. on the 5th of August, which is a Thursday. And if you have any questions after this or need assistance with your application or any access requirements, you can email me, and my name is at the bottom of the Caravan Assembly web page. Yes, thank you so much for coming. And we'll be signing off.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye all.